welcome to another episode of Business Highlight, a show by the Boca Raton Tribune. My name is Pedro, and before we get started, make sure to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. All those will be at the bottom. It's just Boca Tribune. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with John Miller, the owner of Docking Bay 94. John, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me, Pedro. I really appreciate it.
That's awesome. So for those that don't know who you are, start off by introducing yourself.
Well, my name is John Miller. I own Docking Bay 94 Comics and Games in Coconut Creek, Florida.
Yeah, so tell us about Docking Bay. How long have you guys been around for?
My
I know
gosh.
There's like an interesting history there. So
yeah, I've been doing this since 1998.
Wow,
it's been quite a long time, and essentially, it's kind of a long story, but I bought it from an existing chain of stores. It was a store owned by Past, Present, Future Comics, and I was really good friends. I knew the owner very well, Mark Gallo, and I even worked for him part-time for a few years. I was kind of like, in the beginning, like the gopher. I was the guy that would go pick up the comics for the stores, bring them back. And after a while, I earned their trust and became like a part-time employee. I worked there for many years, and I loved it. And while working full-time at another job, I worked for Publix for many years. And then I got frustrated at Publix, so I was trying to get into management. I had worked there like about 10 years, and it didn't seem like it was going anywhere. And I had built up a lot of like retirement with Publix, believe it or not. And then I was talking to the owner of the store, and he goes, "Listen, I'm thinking of selling it." And I'm like, "Oh, if you ever sell it, I'll buy it." And then like 2 weeks later, he calls me up. He's like, "Were you serious? Do you want to buy that store?" I'm like, "Sure." And lucky for me, I had enough of my retirement for what he wanted for the store at the time.
Wow.
So it was a kind of a smooth transaction for me. So I bought it from him. It was an existing store already in Boca. And so he had some customers and subscribers for comics. So it's a lot easier than just starting at the ground floor. So if you ever do this, want to get into this business, is what you need to do. Try to buy an existing store and just, and take it over and build it up from there. So, and at that time I had called it Lost Realms, and it stayed that name for a while until we moved to a new location about 11 years ago. And I decided to rebrand it and give it a new name and called it Docking Bay 94.
Yes, I've been going there since it was Lost Realms at the old plaza next to, I forget where it was. That's where I got my Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
Yeah, in the Sandalfoot Plaza next to the old now it's Western Beef there.
Yes, yeah, right there. Yeah, that's where that's how I met Lost Realms. And when you guys weren't there anymore, I was like, "Where'd it go?" And then I had friends like, "Oh, they actually just moved down the road," and then that was awesome.
That's a whole nother story. At the time, like that shopping center was suffering really bad. They had lost a lot of their tenants, including their anchor stores. And so because of that, they raised all of our common like things we had to pay for. So our rent stayed the same, but our maintenance and everything else went through the roof.
Yeah.
So I'm like, it's at a point where it's not worth being here. So we had to find a new spot, and it was real close, and it worked out for the best.
Yeah. So how did you even get into comics? Because a lot of people, when they get older, right, they get kind of shy away from comics. But
that's true. I know. I guess ever since I was probably in second grade, I discovered them like on a spin rack at a drugstore that was nearby, and then I quickly found out there's comic book stores. So then I would like take multiple buses and train rapid transits to get to a comic book store where I lived up in Cleveland at the time.
Wow.
And it was worth the trip. And also having some good friends in school at the time introduced me to like Wolverine and the X-Men, who I didn't know about yet. And I just fell in love with it and never stopped loving it.
Oh, that's awesome. So what would you say it would be your favorite part of owning a comic book shop?
Owning a comic book store. That's one of the best things. And also being my own boss. I mean, you can't beat that. And, when there is downtime, which there isn't a lot, I can enjoy some comics and read. And it's also the fellowship with other customers when they come in. We'll just sometimes talk for like hours, it seems, about, our favorite comics and what's going on in the industry.
Yeah.
So I do enjoy that.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about the industry. A lot of people talk about, even like in local newspapers, right? People talk about newspapers and print comics or books or whatever it is, kind of like not dying, but kind of almost there, in that no one's going to want it anymore. But I feel like you think otherwise.
I agree to an extent. I do think newspapers and magazines are dying, but I don't think comic books are dying whatsoever. I mean, sales are probably better than they have been in a long time. a lot of it's the indie stuff. Like there's a new Berserker book coming out that
Hmm.
Keanu Reeves is involved with. They sold over 600,000 copies of
Wow.
number one.
Wow.
So there's a lot of people who want this material. So, and talk to CGC, the guys who grade comics, if things are slowing down because they're repeatedly behind, months behind, trying to get stuff graded because everyone's getting their books graded, and that's another thing. A lot of this stuff, it's just, people are just looking for entertainment right now during these times, and comics give you that each week.
Yeah, for sure. So Docking Bay 94, obviously, as people might not know, it's a reference to Star Wars. So how did you decide to change the name to Docking Bay 94? Like, how did that, like, what was that thought process like?
Well, I was always a Star Wars fan at heart, and I always thought that would be a cool name, but I wasn't sure. At one point, I wanted to call it Your Friendly Neighborhood Comic Book Store, kind of like a little play on Spider-Man, Your Friendly Neighborhood
Yeah.
Spider-Man. I'm like, that's way too long to put on business cards and T-shirts. So I just thought it looked neat and just interesting, because a lot of people are like, what's a Docking Bay 94? The ones who don't know Star Wars.
Yeah.
But it is funny when I do see Star Wars fans who don't realize at first, and all of a sudden they'll be in my store and their eyes light up. They're like, Star Wars, Docking Bay 94. I'm like, yes. They're like, that's amazing. So, so
That's so
I
cool.
do love the branding. I thought it was great. I am
I,
worried that I'm waiting for a cease and desist, but that hasn't happened yet.
I was about to say, I'm like, hey, just leave it alone. No one's gonna say
Oh, I know.
anything.
I know.
That's a great.
Yeah.
That's a great. It's a great name.
Oh, I
So,
love it.
so as the owner of the shop, right?
Right.
Tell us what your day to day looks like. What is a daily like glimpse at your
I
life
mean,
as an owner?
generally it's a lot of ordering comics. I try to do a lot of research, stay on top of what's coming out, and trying to predict what's going to be the hot things. So a lot of that. And we kind of have a set routine where one day I do my orders, Tuesday we get our new comics, so we have to deal with those, and then Wednesdays are new book day. So there's kind of a routine, and I kind of fall into that routine. And I mean, before the pandemic, we used to be open for in-store gaming, so we used to have a whole program for that, for games at
Mm,
night and events and tournaments. So it was like a whole thing. So, but right now it's just staying on top of everything.
yeah, for sure. As people know, I'm speaking with John Miller from Docking Band 4. If you want to check out the website, it's comicandgames.com.
Yep.
You can go there and check out all the information on his shop. John, how about this? Some of our listeners, right? They might be, a little older, and they might
Okay.
have like huge collections of comics from when they
Oh
were
yeah.
kids or whatever. Do you guys, buy old collections? Like, well, what does that process look
Oh yeah,
like?
we're always looking for it, but just keep in mind that if you have like a lot of stuff from the 90s and 2000s, a good majority of that stuff doesn't have a whole lot of value. I
Yeah.
mean, I'll still be interested, but you're not going to get top dollar for that stuff. But the stuff that is in demand, yeah, we do pay more for that kind of stuff. So sure.
So
So
what
yeah,
are
definitely.
yeah, like what are some of the like if they're trying to look like what are some of the things that you would say is valuable?
Well, obviously anything that's Silver Age or older. I mean, anything from I'd say 70s, 60s, and older. But your main ones like your Spider Mans, your X Men, your the main characters, Deadpool, all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's definitely in demand.
Yeah. Yeah. So I got more into the shop, I would say during COVID-19, because you did this really awesome thing, right? That you did an auction on Facebook Live and people would be buying things there. Tell us a little bit about how COVID-19 has affected the store, but how have you been able to, make a lemonade out of these lemons that you were given?
Right. It was a little crushing at first when everything happened, just like to everyone. I was just, oh, what am I going to do? And a good friend of the store, Shabir Ali Khan, approached me and said, "Hey, I can help you. We can do Facebook Live auctions." And it was great. I never even looked into it until he brought it up. And he would come down. He was driving down from like Stewart to help me, and he
Wow.
was great. And he would help film it and help me promote it. And it really helped a lot and helped me during those early days of the lockdown. And then after a while, we were able to start doing curbside pickup, and it helped a lot. We were mailing out a lot of stuff, but yeah, I moved a lot of back issues doing that. I was very impressed how many people we
Yeah.
were able to reach, and it was very nice. I was really happy by the support that everyone and the love people were showing.
Man, so like, what would you say is your favorite part of the comic book community as a whole?
Is that love and support that they bring. I mean, it's shown through during this. Like I had customers like anything you need, man. If you need me to, I'll definitely want to support you guys in any way I can, man. So that was very nice. I
Yeah.
was very like taken back by that.
Yeah, if you could pick like, I guess I'm gonna pick your brain. What would you say is one of your like, let's say the top three, favorite superheroes, and why and why?
My top three superheroes. I mean, I've been reading comics so long. It's changed over the years, but I mean, for longest time growing up, it was Spider Man. I just love Spider Man. He was just like the superhero almost anyone could be, because he wore a mask, so you couldn't see who he was. So
Yeah.
I know a lot of people were inspired by him because they felt like I'm living through his eyes, of the character. And then I went on to start reading more stuff like X-Men, and when I grew up, so I kind of fell in love with Wolverine, characters like that. And then when things like Vertigo came around, so I started reading more, I guess you would consider adult, type things like
Mm-hmm.
Swamp Thing or John Constantine, and a little darker, more adult, grittier. Oh, Sandman. I mean, you don't get
Yeah.
any better than Neil Gaiman's Sandman.
Yeah.
So
That's a
I
good
mean,
one.
those
That's
are definitely some of the ones I love.
yeah. So, do you personally have like this huge collection at home, or is it just really like everything that's in the shop is in the
I,
shop?
I had at one point, and then when I opened up my store, my whole collection came into the store. So but over the years, there's been things I've kept, or I tend to buy a lot of like the omnibuses and collections of stuff to have, nice, beautiful hardcovers and trade paperbacks, and
Mhm.
enjoy them that way.
Yeah.
But then sometimes I get bored with those and I bring them back into the shop. So it's weird, it's a weird thing.
Do you ever feel like, at first before you own the shop, right? It was just really like a hobby and thing you did for fun. But once you
Oh yeah.
jumped into the actual business side of it, did some of that like kind of, I won't say love, but kind of like that excitement of comics like kind of go away because there's a lot of business to it as well?
No, I think it just shifted into like you started to learn what people want and what is
Mm,
hot. So it's like you get excited when you get a collection. You're like, oh, people are going to love these. These are great. So that it kind of turned into that where you knew that you were going to give something that customers are going to love. So that excited me.
yeah.
And I learned not to hold on to so much. While now I'm a business owner, I'm not a collector. So I tried not to. I had to change that mentality. And I
And
think that shifted to like buying other stuff like DVDs and movies and all kinds of stuff. But it morphs. It just turns into something else.
yeah,
For a
the
while, I was
collect.
into arcade games at my old
Oh.
location. I used to have vintage games, and then so it changes.
Yeah, it changes once you move into something else. Like that becomes kind of like the job. So you find something else to take over that collection.
Yeah, you never lose that collecting mentality. That's for sure.
Right. So before I let you go, I asked this question to everybody, but you're different because you own a comic book shop. So I'm not gonna. I usually ask like advice for the future for people growing up and whatever. But yours is gonna
Right.
be different and more fun, personally. I think. What's some advice you give someone looking to start a comic book collection?
Okay, I'd recommend don't start thinking you're going to get rich overnight. Do a little research, get into, or just collect characters that you like. If you love a book, stick with it. If it goes up in value, that's even better. It's a win-win. You can't lose. It's like even if it's not worth a lot, if you love the book, it's a great book. So I mean, there's a lot of new number ones that have been coming out, so there's good jumping on points. And I'm also excited. Marvel's going to start reprinting the old Marvel Masterworks into more affordable softcover editions,
Mm.
and I'm looking forward to that for the younger readers because they want to read the classic Stan Lee stuff. They come into my store, they're like, "Do you have old Stan Lee books?" And I'm like, "Those are expensive and hard to get." So they really want to read the stuff he wrote in the beginning. So I'm glad they're putting these out. I think they're only going to be like $15.99 each. So I'm
Oh
like, I'm gonna
wow.
have to order like a dozen of them when they come out of each one because I think they're going to be hot and they're going to be great. And it's
Yeah.
a good way for them to see where these characters who they're watching on the big screen and TV came from.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, right? Do you think these movies that keep coming out help, grow, the people growing up, right? Because now they want to see where this source
Oh
material
yeah,
came from.
definitely, definitely. And we saw it when movies like Black Panther came out, and oh my gosh, the people that came in just ate it all up. Graphic novels, comics, anything related to it. So it does have an effect, a major effect. And now I get the same thing with the new WandaVision show. People are coming in for Wanda and Vision stuff, and graphic novels and comics. So it definitely it feeds into it.
For sure. Guys, talking to John Miller, the owner of Docking Bay 94. Check out their website, comicandgames.com, for everything they do. John, you do like a subscription service, right? Like, how
Yeah,
does that work?
I was just about to mention that. You can do it right on our website. You just have to sign up as a user on there. It costs nothing to join. It's free service, and you won't miss out on any of your comics. You can order them right on the website, and you also save money doing it. So, I mean, it's kind of like another win-win for the customer.
Yeah, no, John, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us today. It was a lot of fun talking comics,
I love it. Yeah, I could.
learning more about your shop. It's awesome.
Oh yeah, we talk for hours for comics. You know that.
I know.
All right.
Well, thanks so much, John. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Pedro. All right. Thank you.
All right. Take care. All right, guys.
Man.
That's going to wrap up another episode of Business Highlight. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. Make sure to share on your Facebook pages and YouTube. And for now, I'll see you guys next week. Have a great weekend.